Hello everyone! It's Shiose here with another Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode review, and today we're doing episode 37. Before Shiose begins though, she does want to apologize because she has not done one of these reviews in such a long time. Not since episode 31 in the beginning of January. That's mostly because she's been really busy and hasn't had the time to do these, and she's so sorry. She will definitely try her best to keep doing them from now on, but maybe no promises for every single episode. This episode she definitely did want to do a review because she has so much speculation and predictions to make regarding this episode. So, without further ado... Oh, but don't worry. Shiose will most definitely be going over the past few episodes she's missed in this review as well, towards the end when she talks about her end of arc predictions in particular. So first off, this episode was so fun. Shiose enjoyed herself a lot, and it was so amazing. The comedy was the biggest part of this episode, and she enjoyed all of it. The Star Wars reference probably hit her the hardest. She laughed a lot during it. It seems like some sort of end-of-arc tradition to have Luke go up against some wacky characters in a breather episode. In the first season, we had his duel against Omae no Ushiro, the second season with Arai, the wash guy, and now here with Dovrap the pigeon, and they've always been towards the end of the season. They've all been super fun, even though it was pretty obvious who was going to win. This episode is no different, of course. Like last episode, this episode was very light in terms of tone, but Shiose didn't mind at all. It finally gave us a duel between Dovrap and Luke, which had been set up since episode 28, the second episode of this season. We got to learn more of Luke's current character, and also got backstory as to why Kayama is one of Asana's officers, so to speak, alongside Dovrap. As a side note, Kayama is what Shiose calls Shuberu, since his name is still unclear in English romanizations. Kayama is his surname, so that's what Shiose will be referring to him as from now on, until we get his official romanized name anyway. But overall, the duel is pretty straightforward. Sevens does a really good job at doing what it is meant to, which is just be comedic. And it's a very light show, so Shiose doesn't mind, you know? She got into Sevens knowing that it would be like this. But also in this duel, Luke finally uses Ancient Arai's dragon, which was a dragon that already came out in a set a couple months ago, so we already knew that it existed. But he also got to show off this Pier dragon. Oh, look at it! Look at it! Shiose loves this pier, it's so cute! It's also very interesting because it could possibly give rise to some new combos in the game. Luke was able to send Meta Gears back to his hand and then re-summon it with this Pier Dragon's effect to activate Meta Gears' effect again twice in one turn because there's no once per turn limitation. This could pave the way for a bunch of bound and summon strategies, maybe. Or maybe she's reading too much into it. Oh, but that's just this episode review. You haven't seen anything yet. But also on the topic of the duel, and on Shiose reading too much into things, it's also even more interesting that Luke didn't use Dragears at all this season except for the first episode of the season, episode 27, where Meta Gears defeats Dragears. Do you remember Shiose's review of episode 27, where she said that it seemed like the duel kept insistently framing it as Dragears lost to Meta Gears rather than Luke A losing to Luke B? She definitely thinks it's something that will come back in the future, but hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it later. The last few minutes of this episode really came at us from left field and showed Kayama and Dovrap buried under the snow together? Did they get caught in an avalanche? That's a deadly situation, you know? They could have died, you know, for real. the scene is not at all what Shiose expected from Sevens, but at least Asana and her great-grandfather came to rescue them. Oh, poor Kayama and Dovrab. Okay, besides that though, the ending was really cute. Luke was cooing like a pigeon and flapping his arms. It was super cute. You know, Shiose sometimes forgets that they're so young, but then Luke does something like this, and she remembers, oh right, they're 11. This is definitely something an 11-year-old would do. And of course, our next episode is Yuga vs Asana, round 2. Shiose expected it, as did most people probably, as they've been doing the 2-episode end of arc duels pretty consistently now. She's very excited to watch it because their first duel in 32 was so fun and Asana was so cute, so she can't wait to see more of that. That ends her general review of this episode, but because it's 2 episodes right from the end, Shiose wants to do a little speculation corner. She actually has a lot of theories as to what she thinks will happen, and she wants to share them just in case maybe she gets one right. So, Shiose is of the opinion that Yuga vs Asana may end in a tie or be interrupted. And don't discount this just yet. Let Shiose explain herself. You know, Shiose doesn't just say this lightly without bringing some proper evidence alongside this. So, first, the stakes for both Yuga versus Asana are too high. For both Yuga and Asana, Shiose to say, Yuga is betting the existence of rush duels, and Asana is betting the entire Machine Cavalry Duel Club and her Machine Cavalry duels, which we have been shown in episodes past that she loves and cherishes, especially in episode 33. Speaking of 33, it was the episode where Galleon's Gigi03 completely broke down and he lost the machine. Before the duel between him and Gakuto really picked up, Kayama interrupted when he saw that Gigi03 was having problems and said this: "In the case of emergency, you must surrender, because no one can lose a machine." At this time, it seemed appropriate and not out of place, though Galleon completely disregarded it and fired back with they aren't allowed to surrender during an ongoing duel. But it's important that Kayama came out to say that in the case of an emergency, a machine breaking down or showing signs of it could be considered an emergency. So, now, at the beginning of 36, we get a shot of Asana washing R6, where she discovers that something has happened to R6's side compartment. She hastily tapes it up and says she'll do her best to get it fixed. The episode before 36 was 35, where we met Zoumyoji Caterpillar, a person who does maintenance on all of the Machine Cavalry Duel Club's machines. And even before all of that, we were already shown that R6 has broken down in some form before in episode 28, where Yuga stumbles upon Asana and they meet for the first time. Shiose thinks that R6 having problems in 28, Kayama's line in 33, Caterpillar's introduction in 35, and R6 having a broken piece in 36 are all very important to the final duel, because Asana will definitely be dueling using R6. All of this is to say that towards the end of the duel, something may happen to R6, and Asana needs to decide to either surrender or cut it short. But Yuga is definitely not the type of person who would let her suffer like this, especially when he also likes R6. He may decide to force the duel to a tie. So, why a tie? Well, in 26 during Nail vs. Yuga, they really teased us with the Annihilation card and the duel possibly tying. Obviously, it didn't happen, but it was shown to us as a possibility that could have happened. Then, in 36, we had the Ranze and Renosuke duel where they both tied. Yuga makes a comment afterward, which is on screen, about how that ties a conclusion that only the twins could have reached. Which means to think that perhaps Yuga hadn't thought about forcing a tie before. This could all be a way to put the idea of a tie into Yuga's head. First in 26, just a vague hint, and then in 36, exactly 10 episodes later, by showing him how exactly to do so. And perhaps it's also to put the idea of a tie in our heads? Good for thought. Shiose also does want to briefly mention that the time slot change for Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s mentions that they will still be at Goha 6 even into the new season. When the time slot change happens, it will be Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode 43, which is definitely way into the new season. So why are they still at Goha 6? That's also part of the reason. Besides that though, Shiose mentioned the high stakes. We already have 37 episodes for us to care about rush duels, and for Sevens to show us how much they mean to Yuga and how he feels about them too. In comparison, this arc seems to have spent a lot of time with Asana and her ideals, as well as her relationship with the Machine Cavalry Duel Club. We were shown in 32, 33, and 34 that this is something that means a lot to her. She's memorized all 1,000 rules of the Machine Cavalry way, and her emotional investment in it was shown in 32 with the flashback to her great-grandfather. For either Yuga or Asana, losing would be bad. The stakes are too high. And that's another thing. We actually knew the stakes of the antagonist this time around. During the first season, all that was on the line was the ownership of rush duels, something Yuga did not really care about having at the time. Of course, there was also episode 13, where he and Roa dueled for the right to become king. But this was a right Roa never had, and also something Yuga didn't particularly want until after the duel had already ended. In season 2, we didn't even know Nail had 5 penalties until after 26 was over and his account got banned. However, going into 30 and 39, we know what the stakes are for both characters dueling, not just the protagonist. It must be framed this way for a reason, right? That reason being that the stakes of the duel may come into play during it. But that's all of Shiose's wild speculation about 38 and 39 and how the season will end. Let her know what you think below. But if you think this review is over, Shiose isn't done yet. Remember when she said to hold on to the thought about Luke, Gears, and Gears earlier? It hasn't escaped Shiose's notice that the first episode of the season was a Luke-centric episode, and throughout the course of this season, we have been getting more insight into him as a character, as well as his backstory. Most prominently, Shiose is of course referring to the introduction of Tiger. Tiger is interesting because her episode focused not only on her, but also her views and relationships with Luke. We got the classic "to become the king of duels" line from Luke during this, but it was a very important line. It seemed like a throwaway at the time, but Shiose thinks it was very important. From the beginning, Luke has wanted to become king. No matter what, that's what he was aiming for. This conviction has not changed in 37 episodes of the series. But as other characters find their footing or develop in some new way, Luke has stayed mostly stagnant. This duel with Dovrap is a prime example. Him being depressed over not winning, over getting things wrong, and stuff not going his way has not changed. Luke also required Yuga to break him out of his funk at episode 17 when he dueled against Nekoyama Schrödinger. This is not a new phenomenon, and something that it seems Luke has a consistent problem with to this day. Beyond that, he doesn't know what to do after becoming king. Roman asked why he wanted to be king in 15, and Luke didn't have an answer because he never thought that far. This brings us all back full circle to episode 27, when Luke dueled against himself. Before the other Luke died and faded away, he told Luke to become the true king. not the king of duels, but specifically the true king, Shin no O. What this means exactly, Shiose doesn't know yet, but it's an interesting detail that she does want to include. There also has to be some relevance over the reason why Dragears was the one positioned to lose in episode 27, and why Luke has not used Dragears since. Every other character has used their first ace this season. Yuga used Seven's Road Magician in 30 against Tiger, Gakuto used Yame Ruler in 33 against Galleon, and Roman used Prima Gitarna in 28 against Sushiko. The rest of the cast has also carefully not used their second aces this season. Yuga is a sort of special case because as a protagonist, his ace changes episode to episode. Of course, his ace will always be Seven's Road Magician at the end of the day. But he hasn't used Seven's Road Witch this season. Gakuto did not use Kime Ruler, and Roman did not use Esperade. In Roman's case, it was actually very interesting because she wanted to. She was trying to go through her deck, to mill her deck to try and find Esperade, but she couldn't. Luke has basically used all of his aces except for Bunker Strike and Dragears, and Dragears is the main point of contention because it's his actual ace. There's also the bit with Tiger seemingly knowing Asana and company, the whole thing about the increase in focus and volcanoes and fire. If you didn't notice, a lot of the summoning chants seem to suddenly focus on burning away ice, there being an increased focus in volcanoes, especially with the introduction of Chikako, and the Phantom character Gen being pretty prevalent this season, but Shiose feels like she's rambled too much now. These are all topics that could probably add another 10 minutes each onto the video, and it's already long enough. So please let Shiose know what you think in the comments below. Is she reading too much into it? Do you agree or disagree? Maybe she missed something that would change the that would change her outlook. She wants to read your thoughts, so please drop them in the comments below. As a side note, she still does her weekly watch-along streams every Friday, though it's not archived because of copyright reasons. So hopefully you stop by sometime. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully Shiose provided some food for thought, or at least some wild tinfoil hat conspiracy theories for you before the end of the season. Maybe Shiose is just reading a little too much into it. Maybe Yuga will win after all, but he will concede and be like, but Asana, you shouldn't give up your machine cavalry duels. But Shiose really wants the Asana versus Yuga match to end in a tie. That would be really good. Anyway, thanks for watching. Again, so sorry for not doing one of these in a while. Hopefully she can pick up the pace and get back to doing them, but you know, no promises just yet. Thank you though. Bye bye. Bye bye.